Welcome to the Bronx COVID-19 Oral History Project. My name is Carlos Rico, and I'm joined here by the lovely Paige Fraser. At the age of 13, she was diagnosed with scoliosis, a severe curvature of the spine. Despite what doctors said, she was able to make a name for herself and live her wildest dreams. She's had to do a lot of extra work to make it to where she is right now in her career, but she was able to be a former member of Alvin Ailey 2 and Visceral Dance Chicago. And on top of that, she was a Dance Magazine Top 25 to Watch and a Princess Grace Award recipient. She's danced for artists like Beyonce and Chanel Iman, and as well as a featured dancer in the Intel campaign Experience Amazing. She is currently on Broadway national tour with The Lion King. She also recently launched her own foundation, the Paige Fraser Foundation, which is aimed to inspire young dancers and artists with or without disabilities. The lovely Miss Paige Fraser, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, happy to be here.
So you're from the Bronx, born and raised.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm from the Northeast Bronx. My parents are immigrants from Jamaica. I have an older brother, and I grew up in a family home with always feeling and knowing that I was loved and supported. When I say family home, my grandmother lived on the bottom, my aunt and uncle, cousin lived on the second floor, and we lived on the top floor. So it was a really wonderful way to grow up, just being around family. At the age of 4, my mom put me into dance. My parents said I was always crying and screaming for them to put on the music in the car, the radio. So I guess that was an early sign that I would do something within musical theater. But I started with dance. I began my dance training in Westchester, New York. It was conveniently located right next to my mom's job. So again, I think that was just the timing and how it all came together. So my mom put me into dance class, and I quickly and instantly fell in love with dance. I started with just classical ballet for many, many years. At the age of 10, I was given the opportunity to play the role of Clara in the Nutcracker, and that was a really big deal, being a Black dancer and being given the opportunity to play that role. So I knew that at that point, like, this was more than just a hobby. And I really wanted to make my family proud, my teacher proud, and fulfill the role the best I could at the age of 10. So I've always been kind of hard on myself in that way, just wanting to be the best I could. And yeah, from then on, I just continued to work and really focus on dance. And I would do other after school activities, but dance was the only thing that really brought me true joy and freedom. And again, like growing up in the Bronx, it's very uncommon for someone to be this disciplined in dance, especially ballet. So that was something I had to kind of explain to my close friends, like why I was always in dance class or in Nutcracker rehearsal. And for my freshman year of high school, I got into the Performing Arts High School in Manhattan, PPAS. And I was accepted as a dance major to train at Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, their school. And that was the first time I saw on the wall and within the halls of the building other dancers that looked like me. So that was a really crucial point for me as a dancer, a young aspiring dancer. And it was a great school. I was around all different types of artists, being at a performing arts high school, musicians, singers, tech designers. Like, we were all so creative and just eager and inspired to become an artist. So that was really, really awesome. But in that same year, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, which, for those that don't know, that is an abnormal curvature of the spine. So my back curves in 2 places, creating an S shape. And I went in for my routine checkup, and the doctor asked me to bend over, and he could see that as I was rolling up, one side of my back was higher than the other. So he advised that we get an x-ray. And lo and behold, after getting an x-ray, I saw how my spine looked. And I was in disbelief because up until that point, I didn't feel anything. So it's kind of like something's growing inside of you that you're not even aware of. And I do think dance helped me up until that point with my posture and how I breathe and how I carry myself. So that may be why I didn't know, why nobody saw. But this was the card I was being dealt with. And I'm very fortunate. My parents, they knew how much I wanted to be a professional dancer, and we researched and found other options because with scoliosis, it is very, very common to get a spinal fusion surgery where they put rods in your back to kind of fuse the spine. And for me, hearing the word surgery was just terrifying. The fact that I could lose some more of mobility and range of motion, even though scoliosis does limit you. I'm very hypermobile and very flexible. So the surgery just didn't seem like the best decision for me. I also wasn't experiencing much pain. So we went the non-surgical route, and I saw a chiropractor and I wore a back brace. And remember, this is all while being in high school, a freshman. So I'm now wearing a back brace to all my academic classes, having to explain and share my story with my friends because this was now part of me. Having to be brave and inform my dance instructors, just a lot of things that I look back and I'm like, wow, like I was really, really brave and courageous and strong. There were days where it was just like everything just seemed harder than it used to. Because it's once you know you have scoliosis, that's all you know. It's almost better before not knowing. So a lot of things had to adjust in how I approached dance, how I understood my body, how I understood how it now functioned with this imbalance. With scoliosis, it curves in an S, but it's also rotated. So there's a derotation and an elongation that needs to happen to oppose what your spine wants to do, which is shrink and compress. So yeah, for the past 16 years since my diagnosis to now, I have been diligent and persistent with caring for my spine. I do a lot of body conditioning. I do yoga, I do Pilates, I still dance, of course. I do gyrotonics, which is another form of conditioning for the back. Epsom salt baths, heating pad, all those things are like now a part of my daily life, and also learning how to listen to my body and know when it needs to rest. But I'm very, very fortunate. Again, I had that support. With dance, I had an understanding of my body and I was able to push through. And I've, fortunately enough, as you read earlier, I've been able to accomplish some incredible things, dancing with Ailey 2, being a founding dancer of Visceral Dance Chicago, guesting with Deeply Rooted Dance Theater, freelance gigs with famous artists. I'm an award-winning dancer. And I look at all of those things and I'm just like, I think back to when I was first diagnosed and the fear that I felt and the discouragement and shame, almost as like, why is this happening to me? And those days where you don't feel good, you take a class and nothing's working, but I look back at all I have been able to accomplish and it's like, wow, I'm glad I didn't give up. I'm glad I spent day and day and day just working on my body and my alignment and understanding this condition. And I think that work and my story and journey has led to the development of the Paige Fraser Foundation, which was founded in 2017. I am a co-founder and arts program developer, and our mission is simple, is to give back to those with or without disabilities. And by doing that, we've created 2 programs that are free to the community, Dance is Healing and the Spine Series. Dance is Healing is an annual program. It's a workshop, a day full of dance. I hire some of my incredible colleagues and friends who have been in companies, on Broadway, on TV and film, and I offer this day of dance to the community, to young dancers between the ages of 10 and 17, 18, right before they're about to step into that professional world. And yeah, it's been a huge success. The last 2 years, we had our first Dances Healing program in the Bronx at Mind Builders Performing Arts Center, and Mind Builders Creative Arts Center, I believe is the correct title. And they're located in the Northeast Bronx, which was just like perfect. The alignment of that, because I'm from the Northeast Bronx and I had no idea Mind Builders existed. So it was really a great discovery that my board members found, and we've now partnered with them. And then this last year we had Dances Healing at Alvin Ailey, which was also another full circle moment, because that's where I trained for most of my life. And yeah, through the pandemic, I was inspired to create the Spine Series, because with having scoliosis, I'm so used to taking a class, taking a Pilates class, getting a massage, getting acupuncture, and all those things we're quite afraid to do with COVID. You know, it's like you take a risk when you go to the gym, take a risk like when you go to the grocery store. So I wanted to create a virtual platform for people to be able to work on their back, whether or not they have scoliosis. A lot of people suffer from back pain. So it's a great sitting now, which is very new for me. So yeah, I think all of that kind of inspired the creation of the Spine Series, and just wanting to share information that has helped me as a scoliosis advocate.
Amazing. Your story, it just listening to it, I feel like I'm inspired to go and do something with what I've been given, which has been, I'm blessed to live the life I live, but to hear your story about being diagnosed with scoliosis and working with that, with what you've been given, and being able to be successful. Even someone like me, who I don't know too much about scoliosis, but just hearing that inspires me to want to go do something and give back like you're giving back. And that's truly something inspiring and amazing. And I and that program that you're doing right now, the Spine Series, that's phenomenal, that your way to just being able to adapt to it and give back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important, especially now, to adapt. This is where we are, and remain open. And there's so much still out there to learn, and so many people with the information. So I'm hoping that this is like a nice plug for people all over the world, if they have questions, if they're just feeling discouraged, if they're having pain, whatever it is they may be going through. I do believe the instructors I've hired will be able to guide people to a much healthier and happier life, spine health as well.
Amazing. So, just backtracking a little bit on your journey, right? I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit about, you felt that scoliosis hindered you from certain things, like a normal high school experience was one of them. But in addition to that, when you were trying out for roles, or when you were auditioning and doing that sort of thing, did other people see that as a hindrance to you, or did you just power through, or explain to them? Like, tell me what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say my high school experience was ruined. It was, I think like my freshman year was the most challenging, just having to explain to people what was going on and come to terms with it within myself. Because I often would wear like baggy shirts so that no one could see the back brace. But then there was a young lady who I'm still friends with. She also had scoliosis, and she was like wearing her back brace like out, like she would wear a tank top or a t-shirt, but you could see the back brace. And I was like, wow, like I want to be that brave. And then we just started talking, and I started doing the same thing. It was like, I was in a very fortunate situation because I went to a performing arts school, and we were all different and eclectic in our own way. So I definitely enjoyed my high school experience. I think what was more challenging was on the dance side was my body had limitations, or I knew in my head there was this limitation. And that's something that I, even to this day, constantly have to push past. Um, to be honest, a lot of my teachers didn't even know. I did have one teacher who had scoliosis herself, which I think that was a blessing from God. But for the most part, I was still growing. The curve wasn't that prominent. You couldn't really tell unless I bent over and stood up. So I was going through these challenges and these changes, but a lot of people didn't really see it. So yeah, I think the hardest part was processing it and coming to terms with it for me, and reminding myself that anything is possible. And although I have to take a longer route to get places, and I have to work a little bit harder, and I have to be way more focused, on this one. If we're doing an exercise in dance, I have to be so focused and make sure everything is where it needs to be. Yeah, that definitely got a bit discouraging. But as a professional, when going out and auditioning, it's not something I say, hi, I have scoliosis, by the way. I just walk into the room knowing and trusting that the years of hard work that I've done have prepared me for this audition. Of course, if people Google my name, you'll see that there are articles with me talking about it, because I am a very proud advocate of it. But I do the advocacy so others don't have to suffer in silence. I know a lot of people who don't talk about it because they are fearful it may affect or tarnish their image, or they may not get a job. And I am living proof, a testimony that like my story is out there, and it actually got me a job. It got me my first national commercial with Intel. And they hired me because of my story. They hired me because I can dance, right? So knowing that you're still talented, that you still have all that you need, despite the fact that you have this condition, or despite that you may have issues with mental health, or you may have this challenge or that challenge, or there's so many things people suffer with. And for me, talking about my scoliosis is healing. But I don't wear it across my chest when I walk down the street or go into an audition. I just go into the room, and I go into the world as me, as Paige Fraser, someone who loves to dance and loves to advocate for others.
Beautiful sentiment. If you ask me, I think so. It's a beautiful sentiment to be able to tell that story, and being able to, and this is what this whole project is all about, is amplifying these stories for people who, maybe too shy, or maybe not have something to relate to, or have something to advocate for. And I think you're doing just that, and I think it's a very beautiful sentiment.
Thank you so much.
So the founding your foundation was very recent, so 2017, so around 3 years ago. Tell me a little bit about how you set that up. I know you're in Chicago right now, but you do have roots in the Bronx, right? The two programs you were doing. So just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the foundation was founded in 2017. It was inspired because I was at a point in my life where I was being given, or I was receiving a lot of awards and recognition. And I expressed to my aunts, they've been very supportive of my career as a dancer. I expressed to them how I was feeling and that I wanted to do more for my community, which is the Bronx. And they had the great idea to start this foundation in my name. And that is the Paige Fraser Foundation. Again, it's inspired by my story, my journey with scoliosis, wanting to advocate, but it's beyond that. It's bigger than me. It's, we want to create programs in theater, in music, in arts, dance, of course. Our long-term goal is to open a performing arts space or center in the Bronx that encourages and welcomes healing and group sessions and Pilates, gyro, all these things that have helped me that are not as accessible because it's expensive. And I just think about how much my parents paid out of pocket for chiropractic care. Mind blown, right? And it's like, there's just so many people, yes, scoliosis is case by case, and many people need surgery, but some people, I think, get the surgery because they think it's an instant fix. And the thing about scoliosis is whether or not you have the surgery, it's going to be for the rest of your life. There's an awareness that needs to happen. It's not something like a headache, you take a pill and the headache's gone. Like, this is your anatomy. And as I said earlier, like, coming to terms with that is like the first major step. Coming to terms with your spine may never be 100% straight again is another thing to, accept. So through the foundation, we want to be a voice, and we want to inspire and encourage people to accept how they are, but also know that there are so many resources and ways to alleviate pain, to work on your mental health, to connect with others, to dance and not feel judged. Like, just have a space that is healing, about wellness, about coming together. And I think that's needed in the Bronx. And we've partnered with Mind Builders. They have a beautiful facility and they offer wonderful dance classes to all ages. I recently partnered with the Bronx River Arts Center. There's so many great things happening in the Bronx, and I hope that the Paige Fraser Foundation can add and just create more beautiful energy and more sense of community, love, support, understanding, because the Bronx at times can get such a bad reputation. And it's like, there's so many talented people who have come from the Bronx. And I would love to even, if this center happens, which we hope it does, bring all of my friends and colleagues that are from the Bronx, and have them teach and have them share. So it is community-based, and it's, as you said, it's just rooted in that specific community, the Bronx.
Amazing. And just pulling from that, yeah, the discussion about being an artist, right? Being an artist, especially in 2020, right? Like, what does that entail? Because I know a couple of artists, and then in talking to you and listening to your story, it can be very easy, especially if you're living here in the Bronx, right, to be discouraged on being an artist in today's world, of where, they say, oh, get a job that pays well, or go into business, or go into this. So do you have any words to speak on that, about being an artist today? Some words of encouragement or just advice even?
I mean, it's what we're facing right now is trying. Again, like right before this pandemic, I booked my dream job with the Lion King, which the journey for Lion King and for musical theater, as many people know, it's like a lot of waiting. It's a lot about timing and the right spot opening up. So I auditioned for Lion King, I want to say 6 or 7 times over the years. So when I finally got in, it was like, wow, I got in, and it happened so quickly. I was on tour, I was rehearsing, and then it was my debut. And I was touring for about 6 months, and then the pandemic hit. And now I'm home and I'm away from the stage, which is difficult. I have been a very fortunate dancer to have always been working. My first job was my senior year of college. I went to Fordham University and I got a BFA in dance at Ailey, and I was handpicked to be an Ailey too. So I've definitely had my struggles. Not saying I got any of this easy, but I was a fortunate case to go to college for what I wanted to do and get the job. And that continued with hard work and perseverance. I continued to work throughout my career, not burning bridges, being professional, being on time. And to now be in this place of, well, am I still a dancer? I know I am, but it's been a long time. Like, I've never been away from the stage or the studio this much. Again, even taking class is a risk because the virus is still out there. And, I try to be cautious with how much I'm going out and interacting with people. So it's a trying time, and I've turned my apartment into a dance studio. I take a lot of virtual classes. I've used this time, I've tried to see the silver lining and use this time to work on the foundation and really develop these programs, because before I was always juggling the foundation with work, which is very overwhelming. And now I've been able to sit down and talk to the board and have people help us in different ways, and just fine tune what it is we want to do and how we want to grow. And we've recently appointed new program director, so I'm not the only program director, which is great. And it's been a beautiful time of discovery, connecting with people. Last month in July, actually it's September, so 2 months ago, my goodness. In July, we highlighted artists with other disabilities beyond scoliosis, and that brought me a lot of joy. And I think I brought that up because the thing during this time is finding joy, and knowing that it will be in waves. You're gonna have days where you feel unmotivated and you feel sad and you're just like, who am I and what am I doing and why did I decide to be an artist? But there's a beautiful thing still happening, even if it's virtually, even if it's online, or it's still happening. And we're seeing that the world needs the arts to survive. So the arts will be coming back. It may be in a new way, in a new form, new formats that we have to adjust to. But try not to stay in that funk for too long. Try to find other things that you're excited about. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to create a website. Maybe you want to create a podcast. Maybe you want to teach little kids, whatever it is your art is. You want to teach kids how to sing or how to dance. Like, there's so many ways we can use even this platform, Zoom. It's like there's so many ways we can use these new platforms to still feel connected and still feel rooted in our purpose. So that's the best advice I can give. And I'm taking my own advice. Those are the same exact things I've been doing to kind of stay afloat.
It's helping. Thank you for saying that. And I know there's plenty of people who will take that and hear that, and I hope they take that to heart, because truly, I believe in the statements that you are saying, and I agree with you in that the world needs the arts right now. I argue more than ever, because in these periods of reflection where we're always contemplating about, okay, who we are as people, right? What is are we our careers or are we ourselves? And through art is the way we can express that. And for you it's dance, and for me it's writing, and being able to hear that. And I'm really thankful that you were able to say that. And no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say also, like, this time, another silver lining for me has just been the beauty of rest, because I've been ripping and running my whole career, whether it's touring or rehearsals or auditions or voice lessons. It's always something. So it's been nice to like have moments of nothing, um, and to also be a little more in charge of my schedule. That's been cool versus like, here's the schedule for the week. It's like
Yeah.
I'm creating my schedule and I'm deciding what I want to do in this moment. So that's been really cool.
Instead of just doing the 12 hours or how many hours grind, right? Now you have time to think, okay, I'm going to be able to do this. And
Yeah, it's really cool.
sweet. So going back to the Bronx, one of the things my mentor and the director of the Bronx African American History Project, Dr. Nason, one of the facts that he shares with us, as the Bronx has evolved, this is 50th year teaching at Fordham, which is, so he's seen it. Yeah, he's seen it evolve from all this time. So one of the things that he told me was back in the 70s, there were a lot of arts programs for the student at the public schools, the PS and then the MSs that are there, where kids could just go and check out an instrument, or the teachers there would be singers or drummers or guitar players or saxophone players. And the Bronx is the birth of hip hop. That's where it all started. That's where hip hop was born. That's where many artists were born. And as you said, it's such a fiery place full of talent and creation. And as time went on, um, it's the 70s, and then the fiscal crisis happened in the 80s and the 90s. They started taking those programs away. So now it's not possible for these kids to get instruments, or not as often anymore. They don't have the same teachers, the same outlook. So it's inspiring to hear that your mission of getting a performing arts center there to be able to provide that is truly something that I would love to see, and I'll be there as soon as it happens. And I'm really excited to talk about it.
Oh, let's manifest it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm manifesting it right here, right now. And for you, and hearing you talk about your story about looking the way you do, being a Black dancer, and then going to your school and not necessarily seeing anybody who really looked like you until you went to Manhattan. Can you talk a little bit about that, like what that experience was like?
yeah. Oh man, I don't get this question often. So again, like, I grew up in a Jamaican household. The area we grew up in, it's pretty diverse, depending on what street you go on though, right? So that's the tricky thing about the Bronx, is like, one block here are the projects, and then 2 blocks here are where the Italians live, and there's like huge homes and grass, and it's like, whoa. So I had a lot of that growing up because I saw that. And then my mom worked in Westchester, my dad worked in Manhattan. My aunts always took me to see dance and theater, so I was going to Lincoln Center and seeing ABT, all these things that like most kids from the Bronx don't get to do. So I grew up with a lot of culture. My dad always played music in the house, all types of music. So again, like that sense of rhythm and just love for movement was like in me from when I was a baby. And then when I started dancing in Westchester, all my friends were white because that's the community in Westchester. I had maybe 3 friends of color, and they lived in Mount Vernon. And then I went prior to going to the Performing Arts High School, I was at a Catholic school in Pelham Manor, where most of the class was white. So I am very fortunate because I was around all different types of people. So it didn't really clicked to me that I was different. Even at the dance studio, like, yes, it was predominantly white and my teacher was white and whatever the case may be, but she believed in me so much. I mean, she cast me as Clara because I was talented. And it wasn't until I got older, so I would say maybe around like 12, right before high school. And I was like about to start the performing arts school. And when I went to Ailey, I saw like an entire company of predominantly Black dancers. And it was like, wow, this is different. I'm not used to that. I'm used to when I go see ABT at Lincoln Center, there's maybe 2 of them and there's a few Hispanics, and Asians, but I'm used to the opposite. So it was like a sense of like, wow, has always existed. I didn't even know. So I was stepping into my truth even more being at Ailey. And then when I would do summer intensives, I would still I wanted to be a ballerina so badly. So I would do all these ballet summer intensives, and I did ABT, and I remember I was like the only Black person in like my class that summer, and the New York Times interviewed me, and like it was just like, whoa, like this is really a thing. And then I remember there was a huge article in New York Times, where are all the Black swans? And there were quotes and interviews from principal dancers in ballet companies who were Black, and it was like, that was a moment for me. It was like, wow, this is still a thing, that this is still being a question proposed and asked. So I think during that time was when I realized like being a Black dancer may not always work in my favor. But I just decided in those moments to just work harder and to persevere. And I think because I had scoliosis, that already instilled in me a sense of perseverance on a whole nother level. Because it's like, I'm not even concerned with what you think of me and how I look. I'm working through a spinal condition that, according to doctors, like, I shouldn't even be dancing, you know what I mean? And here I am defying this odd, so I'll deal with this other odd later, And that's just always kind of been what I focused on, is just like, how can I be the best dancer I can be? How can I be confident in myself? And, how can I break those stereotypes? And I have, dancing in this company in Chicago for 6 years. Chicago's very divided, and the company, it was diverse, but it's a predominantly white company with predominantly white choreographers. And here I am in this company. And every time we perform in Chicago, when I was in the company, it was like, wow, I'm inspiring other Black dancers to do the same and to strive to be a professional and to dance in a company like this. So I'm very fortunate to like have had the Ailey 2 experience, the Black dance experience, the African experience, and then to also dance in a contemporary company with European choreographers, and like, having to figure out how I fit in both spaces. Because oftentimes I've felt that I may not be Black enough for Black spaces, and then I'm too Black for white spaces. So having to navigate that has been something I've dealt with in my 20s, and just again, like shedding those thoughts and ideas and voices, quieting the noise, and just being. Wherever I am in the moment, I'm supposed to be here. I'm not too much or too less than. I am supposed to be here, and I will continue to have work ethic and be professional and be open and listen and try and be curious. Those are the things that have allowed me to continue to work in any space. And before I got Lion King, I actually booked West Side Story. And believe it or not, I was a jet. I was a black jet. And I just remember opening night, like overwhelmed with emotions because I, again, was breaking a stereotype. This particular casting director wanted to diversify the cast. And it was at the biggest opera house here in Chicago, the Lyric Opera. And I made history. So again, it's, I think throughout my life, my parents, I can't thank them enough. They raised me to just be open and to be friends and to be kind and to be loving to everyone and to love and respect how God made me as well. And I think that's what's just carried me throughout my career, that I'm able to bounce from Black dance to contemporary to Europe to West Side Story to Lion King. Like, I'm able to do all these things because I'm open and I'm curious.
I love it, and I love being able to hear that, and I love that you're able to speak that, and it to me, you said that you didn't get that question so often about, you know, what it's like to be a black dancer, and these conversations are being raised more and more often, right? Like, what does it mean to be black in this country? What does it mean to be a person of color in this country? In wake of, you know, this has been happening for so long. I'm not saying it started with George Floyd, but with the civil unrest, not unrest, but people are upset. I'm upset. I'm upset. I'm upset. You know, I'm upset. People are upset, and we're demanding change. Like, what should our communities look like? Who should our leaders be? What ought to be the steps we've taken forward? And so, the question I guess I have for you now is, how is that affected in the way of your process of, like you said, being who you are? Or any words to share beyond that as well?
I think with the murder of George Floyd in particular, and with us all being home, right? That's the big difference. Like, because unfortunately that's been happening, but we're all home and we're all we had to sit in it, and we're still having to sit in it. Breonna Taylor is another situation, right? So I think, like, this moment to just be home and like having to deal with the emotions of it, it inspired me to start to reflect on how and if I've used my voice enough. Because I have experienced comments made about my hair, or I have felt that a choreographer didn't pick me because I wasn't enough of what they wanted, right? It's like, I can't change the color of my skin. I can't dance like my coworker. I can only do the best I can do. I've had a lot of experiences like that, and, you know, feeling a little out of place in certain spaces. But out of fear and not wanting to be seen as an angry Black woman or someone who's always complaining, or you suppress, and you just do the job and you're on time. Yes, thank you. You're respectful because that's how I was raised to be. But during this time, it made me think about some situations where it's like, Paige, you should have said something. You know, you should have said something, or you should have defended that person, or why didn't your coworker say something who isn't at risk of losing their job for speaking up? Why didn't she say anything if she's really your friend? So I've had a lot of those thoughts, and friends have reached out to me, and we've had open discussions on Zoom, and we've talked about ways that as an ally, they can do better. And also I've spoken to artists of color and how we can do better and how we can advocate for ourselves more, and nix and cancel this idea of like being seen in a way for speaking up. Wrong is wrong. You know, if someone says something to you that offends you and is borderline discrimination, let's have a conversation about this, and let's be adults and talk about ways that we can, move forward and not have this repeat. I think it's crazy that people don't get jobs because of their hair. Like, come on now. So there's a lot of work to still be done and chiseled at and brought to the light and addressed. I think it's more than a sticker that says I support you. I think it's in action. I think it's in tell us what you're going to do differently. What are the steps you're going to take to make people feel comfortable in this workspace? And that's from small companies to large corporations that I've worked with, that I know people at. It's like, how can we use this time to reevaluate? Just as I reevaluate myself every day, it's that work. How can we reevaluate? We cannot keep operating the same way. It's easier for you to operate that way, but if you're not making a safe environment where people feel loved, understood, protected, I feel like a lot of people will start to break those handcuffs and say, I don't want to be here anymore. I think now in this situation, as you said, everyone is angry and we're not, our first thing is not to suppress anymore. It's like, now you're really going to hear, you're really going to know. So again, I'm just like you, I'm navigating that in my own situations and going forward, reflecting how I want to process and address things if they come up. And to, know your voice may shake a little, but it's just better to say it and to be strong and clear and to have your points because it's valid.
Thank you for that. I feel like this is a conversation that, people can have over the phone, like texting or just social media and being able to post something. But I really appreciate you being able to, one, tell your beautiful inspirational story, and two, being able to share your thoughts with me here, because I am a white passing, my name's Carlos, I'm half Colombian, but I am a white passing male, so I do benefit from looking the way I do, and just being able to have this conversation with myself, and for anybody who might be listening who will listen to this and take away something from that. I think it's something that's imperative, and like you said, being able to voice it clearly and have these demands, right? Like, what needs to be done, what are the next steps that need to be taken. I think just by being here, I think we're going to be working towards making things better, because I want things better for my community. And through all the work you've done, you're making your community better every day. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your sentiments.
Thank you.
Any last thoughts or words of inspiration that you want to share? Anything else you're working on, or something else you would like to say before we close out?
I would just say, be on the lookout. My mom and I are co-writing a book. It's inspired by the turning point in my life, which was when I was cast as Clara. I think a lot of people, as an advocate, I talk a lot about my scoliosis, but I kind of wanted to talk about the experience prior to that, because being cast as Clara was like a huge experience for me, and it's kind of what set the tone for me to want to pursue dance professionally. So it will be a children but teenage book as well, just about my experience with dance and my love for dance and how it's led me here. And then I think the last thing is just, if everyone can be sure to check out the Paige Fraser Foundation. We're doing wonderful things. We are developing and expanding each and every day, and we really want people to benefit from what we're offering. And in December will be our third annual Dance is Healing. So I want to start spreading the word about that. So young dancers know it's completely free. And this year it's going to be virtual because it's safer. So we're hoping to really have the classes full, and the registration information will be on the website probably in October. So be on the lookout for that. Is there anything else? I always say, for those dealing with a challenge, whether it's scoliosis or whatever it may be, practice grace with yourself. Know that it is a never-ending journey, but you have to be relentless, and you have to remind yourself that there's beauty in the struggle. There's beauty in pain. You're valid. What you're experiencing is valid. Find a tribe, find a community that will uplift and love and support you while you're going through what you're going through. That's so important. And if you can't find a community or tribe, there's so many resources online now. There's so many Facebook groups and Instagram pages that may be helpful to you if you're going through something that is affecting your day-to-day life. So just remember you're not alone, and also remember the importance of rest, taking care of yourself, and yeah, I think that's it. Just try to enjoy life, especially now, because I think everyone's like, oh man, I can't wait for 2020 to be over, but we don't even know what 2021 is going to be like. And before you know it, like the year's over, and you don't want to just reflect and say, wow, I just was waiting for this to be over. So try to use this time, try to be creative, try to just tap into a different part of you. And if it's hard for you to do that by yourself, connect with someone else, offer help. See if anyone needs a volunteer. See how you can continue to also give back to the community, because you can't do it by yourself. I can't. So if anyone wants to help me, I'm here for the help.
The wonderful, beautiful Miss Paige Fraser, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.